Hey Aries, welcome back. I just pulled cards for you asking about what's coming next between you and your person, and honestly, the energy here is really fascinating. I'm getting this sense of major transformation mixed with some really honest truths that need to come out. So let me walk you through what I'm seeing because there's a lot to unpack here. Before we dive in, I want you to know this reading is speaking directly to where you are right now with this connection. Whether you're in contact or not, whether things feel stuck or moving, the universe has messages for you about what's unfolding. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. But I have a feeling this is going to hit home for a lot of you. All right, the first card I pulled is the Eight of Wands, and wow, right off the bat we're seeing momentum. This is the card of swift movement, rapid communication, things suddenly picking up speed after a period of stillness. For those of you who have been waiting for something to happen, for movement, for clarity, this card is telling you that the energy between you and your person is about to accelerate, dramatically. What I find really interesting about the Eight of Wands showing up first is that it represents messages flying through the air. Think about arrows being released all at once, all heading toward their target with precision and speed. In the context of your connection, this suggests that communication is coming. Maybe you've been in silence, maybe things have felt stagnant, but something is about to break through that stillness. This could be a text message, a phone call, a conversation that happens unexpectedly, or even just an energetic shift where you both suddenly feel compelled to reach out. The Eight of Wands also speaks to clarity arriving quickly. You know how sometimes you're confused about where things stand, what someone's thinking, what's really going on beneath the surface? This card says that fog is lifting. Information is going to come to you rapidly, and you're going to understand the situation much more clearly than you do right now. For some of you, this might feel overwhelming because it's all happening at once, but trust me, this speed is necessary. The universe doesn't want you sitting in confusion anymore. There's also this element of things being set in motion that cannot be stopped. Once the Eight of Wands energy hits, it's like a domino effect. One thing leads to another. Conversations spark more conversations. Feelings that were hidden start bubbling to the surface. If you've been holding back from saying something or doing something in this connection, the energy is pushing you forward. There's no more time for hesitation. The next chapter is beginning whether you feel ready or not. And honestly, Aries, knowing your sign, you probably thrive in this kind of fast-moving energy anyway. I'm also picking up that travel or distance might play a role here for some of you. The Eight of Wands can represent physical movement, so if you and your person are separated by distance, something might be shifting around that. Maybe plans to see each other, maybe one of you making a move, maybe just the feeling that the distance doesn't matter as much anymore because the emotional connection is strengthening. The key message with this first card is that waiting is over. The next chapter isn't some distant future thing, it's happening now. Pay attention to what comes through in the next few days or weeks because it's significant. Don't dismiss sudden urges to reach out. Don't ignore messages that come through. And definitely don't talk yourself out of taking action if you feel called to. The universe is literally catapulting this connection forward, and you need to be ready to move with it. Moving to the second card, I pulled the Two of Pentacles. Now this is really interesting because we just talked about rapid movement and now we're seeing a card about balance. The Two of Pentacles is that juggling energy, trying to maintain equilibrium between different areas of life, managing multiple priorities, finding a way to keep everything flowing smoothly even when things feel chaotic. In the context of your connection, this card is telling me that the next chapter involves both of you learning how to balance this relationship with everything else going on in your lives. One of the major themes coming up is integration. How do you integrate this person into your real life? How do you balance the emotional intensity of this connection with your practical responsibilities, your work, your other relationships, your personal goals? I'm getting the sense that for many of you, this connection has existed somewhat separately from the rest of your life. Maybe it's been mostly texting or occasional meetups. Maybe it's been more of an emotional or energetic connection than a fully integrated partnership. Maybe one or both of you have kept it compartmentalized for various reasons. The Two of Pentacles says that's changing. The next chapter is about bringing this connection into your everyday reality in a more concrete way. But here's the thing, and this is important. The Two of Pentacles also indicates that this balancing act isn't going to be completely smooth at first. There's going to be some adjustment required. Maybe your person has a busy work schedule and you're trying to figure out how to make time for each other. Maybe you're both dealing with responsibilities that make it complicated to prioritize the relationship. Maybe there are practical considerations like distance or timing or life circumstances that need to be worked around. The card shows a figure juggling two pentacles, and those pentacles are constantly in motion. This tells me that flexibility is key in your next chapter. You can't approach this with rigid expectations or demands. You're both going to need to be willing to adapt, to compromise, to find creative solutions when obstacles come up. If you try to force things to happen exactly how you want them to happen, you're going to create unnecessary tension. But if you stay fluid and open, you'll find that the balance naturally emerges. I'm also seeing that this card speaks to financial or material considerations playing a role. The Pentacles suit is all about the physical, tangible realm. For some of you, there might be discussions about money, about sharing resources, about practical planning for a future together. This doesn't have to be heavy or negative. It's just the universe saying that as this connection moves forward, you need to be realistic about the practical aspects. Romance is beautiful, but relationships also exist in the real world where bills need to be paid and logistics need to be figured out. There's also an energy here of both people trying to maintain their individual identities while being in connection. The Two of Pentacles reminds you that you're two separate people with your own lives, your own paths, your own priorities, and the healthiest relationships honor that. The next chapter isn't about losing yourself in this person or them losing themselves in you. It's about finding a rhythm where you can both pursue what matters to you individually while also nurturing what you're building together. For those of you who tend to go all in with relationships and kind of forget about everything else, this card is a gentle reminder to keep your balance. Don't abandon your friends, your hobbies, your goals, your self-care routines just because this connection is heating up. The strongest relationships are built by two whole people who choose to share their lives, not two people who merge into one and lose themselves in the process. The third card that came through is the Six of Wands, and oh my goodness, this is such a victorious energy. The Six of Wands is literally the card of triumph, recognition, success, and celebration. When this shows up in a relationship reading, it's telling me that the next chapter involves some kind of win for this connection. What I love about this card is that it suggests you're going to feel really good about where things are heading. There's this sense of pride, of accomplishment, of things finally coming together in a way that feels validating. Maybe you've been fighting for this connection, working on yourself, holding space for possibility even when things looked uncertain. The Six of Wands says your efforts are paying off. You're moving into a phase where you can actually see the results of everything you've invested emotionally. This card also speaks to public recognition in some cases. The figure on the Six of Wands is riding through a crowd, being celebrated, being seen. In relationship terms, this can mean your connection is becoming more visible or acknowledged. Maybe you've been keeping things private and now you're ready to be more open about it. Maybe your person is becoming more willing to claim you publicly or introduce you to important people in their life. Maybe you're both reaching a point where you're not hiding what's between you anymore. I'm getting a really strong message that this card represents overcoming obstacles that have been blocking the connection. The Six of Wands appears after challenges have been faced and conquered. So whatever has been standing in the way, whatever fears or doubts or external circumstances have been complicating things, you're moving past that. The next chapter is about stepping into clearer territory where the path forward is more obvious and more rewarding. There's also this beautiful energy of mutual respect here. The Six of Wands isn't just about one person winning, it's about both people feeling good about the connection. It's about recognizing each other's value, celebrating each other's strengths, feeling genuinely proud to be associated with each other. In your next chapter, I see both you and your person starting to really appreciate what you have together in a deeper way. For some of you, this card might indicate that your relationship becomes an inspiration to others. People might look at what you're building and feel hopeful about love. You might be the couple that friends point to as an example of healthy partnership or genuine connection. This isn't about performing or showing off. It's just that the energy between you naturally radiates positivity, and people notice. The Six of Wands also encourages you to celebrate the small victories along the way. Every meaningful conversation, every moment of deeper understanding, every time you choose each other even when it's not easy, that's worth acknowledging. The next chapter isn't just about reaching some final destination, it's about enjoying the journey and recognizing your progress as you go. I'm also picking up that confidence plays a big role here. The Six of Wands asks you to step into your power, to believe in what you're building, to trust that you deserve good things in love. If you've been shrinking yourself or downplaying your feelings or acting like you don't care that much when you actually do, this card says it's time to be more authentic. Let yourself be seen. Let yourself want what you want. Let yourself believe that this connection can actually work out beautifully. The fourth card is the Tower. And okay, I know this card freaks people out, but stay with me because in this context, it's actually really necessary and ultimately positive. The Tower represents sudden change, structures collapsing, revelations that shake your foundation, moments where everything you thought you knew gets turned upside down. In terms of your next chapter with this person, the Tower indicates that something needs to break down so that something better can be built. There are probably beliefs, patterns, or dynamics in this connection that are not serving you, and the universe is going to dismantle them. This might feel chaotic or scary when it's happening, but I promise you, what's being destroyed needs to be destroyed. Let me be really specific about what this might look like. Maybe there are illusions you've been holding on to about this person or the relationship. Maybe you've been seeing them through rose-colored glasses, making excuses for behavior that doesn't align with what you want, convincing yourself that things are one way when they're actually another. The Tower comes in to shatter those illusions so you can see the truth clearly. And yes, truth can be uncomfortable, but it's also liberating because it allows you to make decisions based on reality rather than fantasy. For some of you, the Tower might represent a conversation or event that brings hidden issues to the surface. Things that have been simmering beneath the surface, unspoken resentments, unaddressed concerns, fears that neither of you have vocalized, all of that is about to come out. It might feel like everything is falling apart when this happens, but actually this clearing is necessary for authentic connection. You can't build something real on a foundation of avoidance and pretense. The Tower can also indicate that external circumstances create sudden change in the dynamic between you. Maybe something happens in one of your lives that forces the relationship to shift or evolve. Maybe a situation that's been keeping you apart suddenly resolves or suddenly becomes more complicated. Maybe there's a moment of crisis that reveals how you both show up for each other under pressure. What's important to understand about the Tower is that it doesn't destroy what's meant to stay. It only destroys what's built on shaky ground. So if this connection is solid at its core, if there's genuine love and compatibility and potential here, the Tower will clear away the superficial stuff and reveal the strength of what's real. But if the connection has been held together by fantasy or convenience or fear of loneliness, the Tower might make that obvious too. And that's actually a gift because it frees you to pursue something more authentic. I'm getting the message that for many of you, the Tower represents the death of your ego's attachment to how you think things should go. Maybe you've had a specific vision for how this relationship should unfold, what it should look like, what timeline it should follow. The Tower says release that grip. Let the universe show you what's actually meant to happen rather than forcing your own agenda. When you stop trying to control every detail, when you surrender to the natural evolution of the connection, you often find that what unfolds is better than what you had planned anyway. The Tower is ultimately about liberation. Yes, it might shake you up in the moment. Yes, you might feel destabilized when structures you relied on start crumbling. But on the other side of Tower moments, there's always more freedom, more authenticity, more clarity, and more potential for building something truly solid. The next chapter includes this shakeup, and while it might be intense, it's paving the way for something much better. Moving to the fifth card, we have the Five of Swords. This one brings up the energy of conflict, competition, tension, or a situation where someone feels like they've won, but at a cost. In the traditional imagery, you see a figure holding swords while others walk away defeated, and there's this sense of victory that doesn't feel particularly good because it came through discord. In your next chapter with this person, the Five of Swords is warning about the potential for power struggles or ego battles. There might be moments where one or both of you are more focused on being right than on finding resolution. There might be arguments where someone walks away feeling like they won the debate but damaged the relationship in the process. There might be a tendency to keep score, to hold on to grudges, to use past mistakes as ammunition in current disagreements. What I'm picking up is that this card is here as a caution rather than a prediction. It's saying, watch out for this energy and make conscious choices to avoid it. When conflicts arise, and they will because all relationships have conflict, you need to remember that you're on the same team. The goal isn't to defeat your person or prove them wrong. The goal is to understand each other better and find solutions that work for both of you. The Five of Swords can also represent feeling defeated or like you've had to compromise too much of yourself. Maybe there are times in the next chapter where you feel like you're giving more than you're receiving, or your person feels that way. Maybe there are negotiations around needs and boundaries that feel more like battles than conversations. The card is asking you to pay attention to whether the dynamic between you feels balanced or whether one person is consistently feeling diminished. I'm also seeing that this card can represent the need to pick your battles wisely. Not every disagreement needs to become a war. Not every difference of opinion requires you to dig your heels in and fight to the death. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let something go. Choose peace over being right. Prioritize the relationship over your ego's need to win. The Five of Swords asks you to develop discernment about what's worth fighting for and what's not. For some of you, this card might indicate that past conflicts or hurts are still creating tension in the connection. Maybe there are unresolved issues that keep coming up, patterns of communication that feel hurtful or dismissive, ways that you've hurt each other that haven't been fully processed and healed. The next chapter might require you to actually address these things directly rather than sweeping them under the rug or pretending they don't matter. There's also a message here about competition energy potentially entering the dynamic. Maybe one of you feels threatened by the other's success or independence. Maybe there's jealousy or insecurity creating friction. Maybe you're both so used to being strong and self-sufficient that you're struggling to be vulnerable with each other. The Five of Swords says that if you want this connection to thrive, you need to shift from a competitive mindset to a collaborative one. The positive potential of this card is that it can represent walking away from toxic patterns. Sometimes the person walking away in the Five of Swords isn't defeated. They're wise. They're choosing to disengage from a dynamic that isn't healthy. So if you find yourself in situations where the only way to win is to be someone you're not, where maintaining the connection requires you to accept treatment that doesn't feel good, the Five of Swords gives you permission to walk away with your dignity intact. The core message here is that how you handle conflict in your next chapter will determine a lot about where this goes. If you can approach disagreements with maturity, compassion, and a genuine desire to understand each other, you'll deepen the connection. If you let ego and pride dominate, if you treat each other like opponents instead of partners, you'll create unnecessary distance and pain. The sixth card I pulled is Ace of Wands, and this is so beautiful because we're seeing new beginnings in passion, creativity, and inspired action. The Ace of Wands is that spark of fire energy, the initial excitement, the feeling that something is being born that has real potential and vitality. This is one of the most positive cards you can get in a relationship reading. What this tells me is that even with the challenges and changes indicated by previous cards, the next chapter has a quality of freshness to it. Maybe you're both approaching the connection with renewed enthusiasm. Maybe you're discovering new dimensions of each other that reignite your interest and attraction. Maybe you're finding creative ways to keep things interesting and alive. Whatever form it takes, there's this sense of passion being rekindled or intensifying. The Ace of Wands represents inspired ideas and taking action on them. In your next chapter, you and your person might come up with exciting plans together. Maybe you're talking about adventures you want to have, projects you want to create, experiences you want to share. There's this forward-looking optimism, this feeling that together you can do things that excite you and bring more joy into your lives. I'm also picking up strong chemistry with this card. The wand suit is associated with fire, with sexual energy, with physical attraction and passion. For those of you in romantic connections, the Ace of Wands suggests that the spark between you is very much alive. There might be moments in the next chapter where the attraction between you feels almost overwhelming in the best way. You're drawn to each other magnetically. You can't keep your hands off each other. The physical connection deepens and becomes more fulfilling. But the Ace of Wands isn't just about physical passion. It's also about enthusiasm and inspiration on all levels. You might find that being around this person makes you feel more alive, more motivated, more connected to your own creative power. They might inspire you to pursue goals or express yourself in ways you haven't before. There's something about the dynamic between you that lights you up from the inside. This card also speaks to courage and taking bold action. The next chapter might require you to be brave, to take risks, to step outside your comfort zone in how you show up in this connection. Maybe you need to be the one to initiate difficult conversations. Maybe you need to be vulnerable about what you really want. Maybe you need to take the lead in moving things forward. The Ace of Wands says you have the fire and the courage to do what's needed. I'm seeing that this card represents a new cycle beginning in how you relate to each other. Old patterns are being left behind, and you're both approaching this with fresh eyes and open hearts. There's less baggage, less defensiveness, more willingness to see what's possible. It's like you're meeting each other again for the first time in some ways. Without all the history and hurt weighing things down, the Ace of Wands also encourages you to follow your instincts and impulses in this connection. If you feel called to reach out, do it. If you have an idea for something you want to do together, suggest it. If your gut is telling you to be honest about your feelings, listen to that. The fire element is all about spontaneity and authenticity. And this card says that serving energy will serve you well in the next chapter. There's definitely a sense with this card that both of you are ready for something real and exciting. Whatever hesitation or resistance might have been present before, it's dissolving. You're both in a place where you're open to possibility, willing to invest energy into building something meaningful, excited about what could develop between you. This is the kind of energy that creates momentum and makes beautiful things happen. The 7th card is Judgment, and this is so powerful because it represents awakening, rebirth, and major life transitions. Judgment is about answering a higher calling, stepping into a new version of yourself, allowing old versions of who you were to fall away so you can embody who you're becoming. This card has deeply spiritual overtones. In the context of your next chapter, Judgment tells me that this connection is part of both of your awakening journeys. You're not just casually dating or passing time with each other. There's something deeper happening here. You're reflecting back to each other truths about yourselves, catalyzing growth in each other, calling each other forward into higher expressions of who you can be. The Judgment card often appears when there's a sense of destiny or fate around a connection. It's that feeling that you were meant to meet this person, that there's a bigger purpose to what's unfolding between you beyond just personal happiness or companionship. Maybe this connection is teaching you lessons you need to learn. Maybe you're helping each other heal wounds from the past. Maybe you're supporting each other's evolution in ways that are profoundly meaningful. I'm picking up that Judgment represents both of you being called to show up differently in relationship. Maybe old patterns of how you've been in partnerships aren't working anymore. Maybe you're being asked to be more honest, more vulnerable, more committed, more present than you've been capable of being before. The next chapter requires you to rise to a higher standard, and while that might feel challenging, it's also incredibly rewarding because you get to experience a depth of connection you haven't accessed before. This card also speaks to forgiveness and releasing judgment, both of yourself and your person. Maybe there are ways you've messed up in this connection that you need to forgive yourself for. Maybe your person has hurt you and you need to decide if you can truly let that go. Maybe you've been judging them or yourself harshly, and that judgment has been creating walls between you. Judgment. The card actually calls you beyond judgment, the mental activity into acceptance and compassion. There's a theme of resurrection with this card. Something that might have felt dead or over or impossible is being brought back to life. Maybe the connection itself is getting a second chance. Maybe feelings that had gone dormant are reawakening. Maybe hope that had died is being restored. Judgment says that nothing is truly over until the universe says it's over. And clearly, there's more life in this connection than you might have realized. I'm also seeing that this card represents both of you becoming more authentic and aligned with your true selves. The next chapter isn't about pretending or performing or being who you think you should be. It's about showing up as you really are, in all your messy, beautiful, imperfect humanity, and trusting that you can be loved and accepted exactly as you are. When both people in a connection can do this, magic happens. Judgment often indicates a moment of reckoning or truth-telling. There might be a point in the next chapter where everything becomes crystal clear, where you suddenly understand what this connection is really about, where you see each other and yourselves with total clarity. This moment of revelation changes everything because you can't unsee truth once it's been revealed. You have to make choices based on what you now know. The spiritual dimension of this card suggests that your guides and higher powers are supporting this connection. You're not navigating this alone. There are forces beyond your understanding that are orchestrating circumstances, opening doors, removing obstacles, bringing you opportunities to grow through this relationship. Trust that there's divine intelligence at work here. The 8th card is the Lovers, and I actually gasped a little when I pulled this because it's such a significant card for relationship readings. The Lovers is about divine union, soul connections, important choices in love, and the joining of opposites. This is the card of true partnership, of two becoming one while still maintaining individuality. In your next chapter, the Lovers indicates that you're moving toward deeper intimacy and commitment. There's a quality of sacred union here, a sense that what's between you is special and worth honoring. This isn't just casual or surface level, there's profound love and recognition happening. You see each other's souls, you understand each other on levels that go beyond words. You feel a sense of coming home when you're together. The Lover's card also represents choice. You're both at a point where you have to decide what you want this connection to be. You can't stay in the in-between indefinitely. The next chapter requires you to make conscious choices about whether you're going to fully commit to exploring this relationship or whether you're going to walk away. Neither choice is wrong, but a choice needs to be made. The universe is asking you both to get clear about your intentions and act accordingly. I'm picking up that the Lover speaks to alignment on important levels. Maybe you share values, visions for the future, approaches to life that are fundamentally compatible. Maybe you complement each other beautifully, each bringing strengths that balance the other's weaknesses. Maybe there's a sense that together you're more than you could be apart. This is the energy of true partnership where both people enhance each other's lives. The traditional imagery of the lovers shows an angel blessing the union, which suggests that this connection has divine approval. The universe is saying yes to what's possible between you. Your guides and angels are supporting this coming together. There's a spiritual rightness to it that goes beyond logic or practical considerations. This card also reminds you that healthy relationships require both union and autonomy. The Lover shows two separate people choosing to come together, not two people merging into one amorphous blob. In your next chapter, it's important that you maintain your individual identities, your separate interests, your personal growth paths while also building something together. The strongest relationships honor both the we and the me. I'm seeing that the Lovers represents a heart-centered connection where love is the foundation and the guiding principle. Decisions are made from love rather than fear. Actions are motivated by genuine care and affection. Communication comes from a desire to understand and be understood. When love is truly at the center, everything else falls into place more easily. For some of you, the Lovers might indicate that this relationship mirrors back to you aspects of yourself that need integration. Maybe your person embodies qualities that you've disowned or rejected in yourself. Maybe they express emotions you've suppressed. Maybe they represent a part of you that wants recognition and acceptance. The deep work of intimate relationship is recognizing yourself in the other and allowing that recognition to make you more whole. The Lovers also speaks to passion and deep attraction on all levels: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. The next chapter has this quality of total absorption in each other, of wanting to know everything about each other, of feeling like you can't get enough of each other's presence and energy. This is beautiful and intense, and it's important to enjoy it while also maintaining some grounding in your individual lives. The 9th card I pulled is Page of Swords, and this brings in the energy of curiosity, communication, new information, and mental agility. The Page of Swords is that young, eager energy that wants to know everything, ask all the questions, explore all the angles. In relationship terms, this is really interesting because it suggests that learning and mental stimulation play a big role in your next chapter. What I'm seeing is that you and your person are entering a phase of really getting to know each other on deeper levels. Maybe you've been together for a while, but there are still layers to uncover. Maybe you're just starting to open up about more vulnerable topics. Maybe you're asking each other questions you haven't asked before. The Page of Swords says that communication is active and engaged. You're both genuinely curious about each other's inner worlds. This card also indicates that honesty and directness become more important in the next chapter. The sword suit is all about truth and clarity, and the page brings a refreshing straightforwardness to communication. There's less game playing, less trying to read between the lines or guess what the other person is thinking. You're both becoming more willing to just say what you mean and mean what you say. I'm picking up that new information comes to light that affects your understanding of the connection. Maybe you learn something about your person's past or their perspective that reframes how you see them. Maybe they discover something about you that deepens their appreciation or changes their assumptions. Maybe external information comes in that clarifies the situation or presents new options you hadn't considered. The Page of Swords can also represent someone who is observant and analytical. In your next chapter, there might be more thinking and analyzing happening around the relationship. This isn't necessarily bad, but the card cautions against overthinking to the point where you disconnect from your feelings. Yes, use your mind to assess compatibility and make wise choices, but don't let mental chatter drown out your heart's wisdom. There's an energy of youthfulness and playfulness with this card too. The page is young, not yet jaded or cynical. Maybe in your next chapter, you're rediscovering a lighter, more fun quality in how you relate to each other. Maybe you're laughing more, teasing each other in affectionate ways, finding joy in simple interactions. Not everything has to be heavy and serious. And this card reminds you that relationships thrive when there's also levity and humor. I'm also seeing that the Page of Swords represents being a messenger or receiving messages. Communication is definitely emphasized in your next chapter, whether that's through actual conversations, written messages, or even intuitive downloads where you suddenly understand something about the connection that wasn't clear before. Pay attention to what's being communicated both verbally and energetically. The page can also indicate someone who is still learning and developing their communication style. Maybe one or both of you are working on expressing yourselves more effectively, being clearer about needs and boundaries, learning how to have difficult conversations with more skill. The next chapter provides opportunities to grow in your communication abilities, and while that growth might involve some awkward moments, it's ultimately strengthening the connection. For some of you, the Page of Swords might represent a third party who brings information or gets involved in the dynamic somehow. Maybe a friend offers perspective that's helpful. Maybe someone from your past contacts you and it affects how you think about your current connection. Maybe there's gossip or outside opinions that you have to navigate. The card suggests staying discerning about what information you take in and who you listen to. The 10th and final card is the Fool, and honestly, this is such a perfect ending because the Fool represents new beginnings, taking leaps of faith and embarking on adventures with open-hearted trust. The Fool is the first card of the major arcana, representing pure potential and infinite possibility. This card says that your next chapter is really about starting fresh. What I love about the Fool appearing here is that it suggests both you and your person are willing to be beginners in relationship. You're not coming in with rigid ideas about how things should be based on past experiences. You're not assuming this will play out like previous relationships. You're genuinely open to discovering what's unique and special about this particular connection. And that openness creates space for something beautiful to develop. The Fool is about taking risks and being willing to look foolish or vulnerable. In your next chapter, you might have to do things that feel scary, like admitting how much you care, like being the first to say I love you, like making yourself available even when you're not sure it will be reciprocated. The Fool says that these risks are worth taking, that life and love require courage, that the potential rewards far outweigh the possibility of getting hurt. I'm picking up that the Fool represents a sense of adventure and spontaneity entering the dynamic. Maybe you're both more willing to be spontaneous, to try new things together, to say yes to experiences that take you outside your comfort zones. Maybe you're approaching the relationship itself as an adventure, rather than trying to make it fit some predetermined mold. There's freedom and excitement in not knowing exactly where this is going. This card also speaks to trust and faith. The traditional image shows the Fool standing at the edge of a cliff, about to step off, but with total trust that they'll be supported. In your next chapter, you're being asked to trust the process, to trust each other, to trust that even if you can't see the whole path ahead, the next step will become clear. This requires letting go of the need to control outcomes and surrendering to the natural unfolding of the connection. The Fool is associated with innocence and purity of intention. There's something really sweet and uncomplicated about the energy this card brings. In your next chapter, maybe you're letting go of cynicism or guardedness and allowing yourself to approach love with more innocence. Not naivety, but genuine openness. Not ignoring red flags, but also not projecting past hurts onto present circumstances. I'm seeing that the Fool represents freedom within the connection. You're both free to be yourselves, to change and grow, to pursue your individual paths while also sharing this journey together. There's no sense of being trapped or limited by the relationship. Instead, being together actually expands your sense of possibility and helps you feel more free to explore who you are and what you want from life. This card also suggests that the next chapter has a quality of playfulness and not taking everything so seriously. Yes, relationships require work and conscious effort, but they should also be fun. The Fool reminds you to laugh together, to be silly, to enjoy each other's company without always having to process or analyze or improve. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just be present and appreciate what is. For those of you who have been hurt before, who have walls up, who are cautious about opening your heart again, the Fool is a gentle invitation to take a chance anyway. Yes, you might get hurt. Yes, things might not work out exactly how you hope. But you also might experience something absolutely magical if you're willing to step off that cliff and trust that love will catch you. The Fool says that the potential for joy and connection is worth the risk of pain. So Aries, as I look at all 10 cards together, here's what I'm seeing for your next chapter with your person. Things are accelerating rapidly, communication is opening up, and you're both being called to show up with more authenticity and courage than before. There will be challenges, yes, particularly around finding balance, navigating conflicts, and allowing old structures to crumble so something better can be built. But underneath all of that, there's genuine love, powerful attraction, and a sense that this connection has real potential. The universe is supporting this connection and asking both of you to approach it with fresh eyes and open hearts. You're being given a chance to create something truly special, but it requires you to be brave, to be honest, to be willing to grow and change and meet each other in deeper ways. The next chapter isn't going to be perfect or without complications. Real relationships never are. But what I'm seeing is that if you can navigate the challenges with maturity and keep coming back to love as your foundation, if you can balance passion with practicality and freedom with commitment, if you can communicate honestly and give each other grace when you stumble, then what you're building has the potential to be really beautiful and transformative for both of you. My advice based on these cards is to stay present, trust the process, and be willing to take risks. Don't let fear of getting hurt keep you from opening your heart. Don't let past disappointments convince you that this will end badly. Don't overthink every little thing or try to control how everything unfolds. Just show up as authentically as you can, communicate what you need and want, listen to what your person is sharing with you, and trust that the universe is guiding this connection toward whatever outcome is highest and best for both of you. Pay attention to the messages and opportunities that come through in the next few weeks. Things are moving quickly, and you need to be ready to act when the moment calls for it. If you feel inspired to reach out, do it. If conversations need to happen, initiate them. If changes need to be made, be willing to make them. This is not a time for passive waiting or hoping things magically work out without your participation. The next chapter requires your active engagement and willingness to co-create with both your person and the universe. And remember, Aries, you're a fire sign. You thrive on passion, adventure, new beginnings, and bold action. Everything about this reading aligns with your natural energy. You're not being asked to be someone you're not or suppress your fiery nature. You're being asked to channel that fire in constructive ways, to let it fuel connection rather than conflict, to use it to create rather than destroy. When you operate from the highest expression of your sign, you're courageous, enthusiastic, honest, and passionate. And those qualities are exactly what this next chapter needs from you. Trust yourself, trust the connection, trust the journey. You've got this, and I'm really excited to see where this goes for you. Thanks for letting me read your energy today, and I hope this gave you some clarity and encouragement about what's coming. Take care of yourself, stay open, and believe in the possibility of beautiful love. You deserve it.